because his wife Amy is at the Republican National Convention. Danny Tarkanian, how you been, my friend?
I'm doing great. Good to be on your show again.
I love it. Let me just ask you, any trepidation about sending Amy off to Cleveland, knowing what we know about the cops being killed and lots of protests? Do you worry about the personal safety of your beautiful wife?
I mean, I do anytime, and this isn't any more than some other instances, and I say that because I think there's probably going to be more security, more protection of what's going on out there in Cleveland than any place in the country. So I think if something bad's going to happen, there's a lot less likelihood it's going to happen with all that security that's out there now. In fact, if you looked what happened in Paris the other day, they were expecting the terrorists to do something during the soccer, or what they call football tournament that they had, and once that ended, everybody relaxed a little bit, and that's when the crime hit. So I'm more concerned about something happening when people aren't expecting it than the national convention.
We have had an absolutely bizarre couple of weeks, Nice and Dallas. It's been absolutely amazing what has been going on. Cops being killed in places like Dallas and Baton Rouge. And now we have the president, a guy who has been one of the great dividers in our country, coming out in the last couple of days. Here was his statement yesterday urging unity after the Baton Rouge killings.
We don't know the motive of the killing. We don't know whether the killer set out to target police officers or whether he gunned them down as they responded to a call. Regardless of motive, the death of these three brave officers underscores the danger that police across the country confront every single day. I know we're about to enter a couple of weeks of conventions where our political rhetoric tends to be more overheated than usual. And that is why it is so important that everyone, regardless of race or political party or profession, regardless of what organizations you are a part of, everyone right now focus on words and actions that can unite this country rather than divide it further.
That was the president yesterday. My question to you, Danny, has the president been a part of the problem?
He's absolutely been part of the problem. And it makes you look. I really want to respect the president, whoever is the president of the United States, and I want to give him or her, whoever it is, the benefit of the doubt. But look, Obama has been the most divisive, race-baiting president in the history of our country. I mean, and then for him to say, tone down the rhetoric, he's the one who's created this rhetoric. And you got to remember, it goes back to the break-in at the Harvard professor that he came out and blamed it on the police officers because they were white and the professor was black. Then he stood by and supported Trayvon Martin when the jurors, before there was even a judgment made, and the jurors all came out back and acquitted the guy who was involved with that. Then the Michael Brown one. I mean, he's the one who was all behind Michael Brown, and now we found out that was a phony deal. And now he's telling people now that 8 police officers over what has been about a week period have been murdered. I mean, just ambushed and murdered. And now he's going to tell everybody else to calm down the rhetoric. What he should be doing is he should be out there front and center saying, this is ridiculous, Black Lives Matters, and anybody else who's taken actions or being involved in any type of hate speech against police it's got to stop. And then you know what about Loretta Lynch when she said she was going to charge people if they said something derogatory about Muslims? Whatever her comment was back then, it was a while ago. Heck, I tell you, if you're making comments about killing police officers, those are the ones that should be charged. And the administration is a big part of what's happening right now. And it really hurts me to see our country and those poor police officers and their families, and the poor black one that passed away this last shooting in Louisiana, who had Facebooked how he was his job was taking a toll on him. He didn't feel people liked him because he was a police officer. How sad for those people who put their lives on the line, and now many of them have died.
More with Danny Tarkanian coming up next. It is live and local now.
Nice.
Let me ask you, Danny, should the president, I know he made a veiled reference to everybody kind of cooling it, but should he demand that Black Lives Matter stand down, stop the protest, stop moving from city to city and causing problems?
Well, he certainly should demand that any type of rhetoric like that is not. I mean, look, you have a right to freedom of speech, but there's also a limits to that, and when you incite violence, that's a limit to it. And right after that chant was made, that was in New York after the killing of the gentleman in New York, which incidentally I think that was completely wrong. That was the gentleman that was selling cigarettes out in front of the store, and they strangled him, and he said he couldn't breathe. I thought that was a really bad act by the policeman, and something should have happened there after he should have had a trial, and something should have happened if he was found guilty of it. But it certainly looked bad with the video. But that being said, they had that chant right in New York City, and within a short period of time, somebody killed 2 police officers in a car in an execution style. You know, that's inciting violence, and that's where you cross the line from freedom of speech to criminality, and they should be held accountable for it. And certainly the president should be doing everything he can to stop that.
Danny, there's a good chance, in fact, that you're going to be sitting in Congress next January, and the issue of how we keep our cops safe. I know we can never keep them absolutely safe, but do you have any ideas on how we can protect cops today, whether it be in Dallas or in Baton Rouge or in Reno or in Las Vegas? Do you have any feel for how we keep cops safer?
Well, one, you can't cater to and make excuses for groups that are inciting this type of violence, which we've just talked about with Black Lives Matter and others. So that's going to change when we get a new president, and hopefully with Trump. I mean, because you have no idea what Clinton will do. She'll play to whatever the emotions are of her party, and you have no idea. But if Trump wins, you know, he said he's going to be the law and order president, and there will not be that kind of catering to those groups anymore. Second of all, I think it should be an absolute immediate. If someone was convicted of killing a police officer, there should be the death penalty across the board. The police officers should be sacred in our country, and they should be protected every way possible. You hate to have a point where you got to go out and have police officers being protected by other police officers or other type of groups because, one, the cost of it. Look what's happening now. This group of and then both shooters have been black, and whether they were encouraged by the Black Lives Matter movement or the rhetoric that's been going on, these police officers were protecting those people that were protesting. They were out there in other cities protesting the rioters. They go into those communities and try to protect the people in those communities, as Charles Barkley said. And now what they're doing, what these killings are doing is going to make those police officers, one, less inclined to be out there. Two, they're going to have to double up or triple up to go any place because they have to protect each other, which means there's going to be less responses that they can get to and less timely responses. They're really just hurting themselves in addition to the families and the loved ones of those that they're killing.
I know when we first booked this interview last Tuesday, we were going to talk a lot about the politics of this congressional District 3 race between you and Jackie Rosen, and the fact that I guess Friday was the money deadline as far as finding out who raised the most money, that kind of thing. What did you report on Friday, and were you happy with it?
Well, we reported the report's a little different. It's not a quarterly report. It's a report that only went from May 24th to June 30th, and we raised, I don't know what the actual number was, 160,000 or something like that. But we did as good a job as you can after the primary because our focus from May 24th to the primary date was to win the primary, and we went out fundraising. From the primary date on, we raised over 100,000, and we're getting a lot of support from different what they call the Young Guns program for the National Republican Congressional Committee and others. And we're going to be well funded. Jackie was well funded too, but she was raising a lot of money at the end of the camp primary. She didn't really have a primary, not anyone that was going to be serious at least. So she was able to go out and raise money then, and she reported a good number. I got to, give her congratulations on that. Just as we've had success fundraise, I'm sure she will. And this race will be targeted by outside groups, and it's targeted by groups that want to see each candidate win. So there's going to be a lot of personal donations that are made to each of us. and we're going to have a chance to get a message out. My message is the right message, and you can tell for what's happened not only with Trump being nominated as Republican Party, but also the Bernie phenomenon, that they don't want another person to come in. As Jackie herself was quoted, she is being mentored by Shelley Berkeley and Harry Reid, and they want her to follow in their footsteps. She's exactly the opposite of what the public wants right now, a career politician to keep the status quo going. And as you saw, I went against the status quo in the establishment in our primary, and won going away, and feel very confident about our chances in general election.
Let me just ask you, you talked about your message. What is the message of your campaign? Is there a theme or two or three key issues that you're going to be zeroing in on over the course of the next 4 months?
Well, the issues are going to be about trying to get our economy going full throttle again. Although it's been 8 years of an incredible amount of spending, low interest rates, printing money, our economy has been chugging along, and people are feeling the pain from it. The middle class is getting left out because we take care of the real wealthy with tax breaks and tax incentives, and we provide for all the people that are in the safety net, and the poor middle class are getting strung out. And getting left further behind. That's an issue the Democrats want to talk about, but they're the cause of that problem. And then we're going to talk about the national safety, for the protecting our citizens from the terrorists, and also these type of domestic terrorists that's going on with the police. But the big issue is going to be: do you want another Harry Reid in office, another mentor of Harry Reid, a puppet of what's out there now? Or are you going to want somebody who's going to stir things up, fight for getting a change in what's happening in Washington, D.C.? People that know me, they know I'm a fighter. They know I don't give up. They know I will keep going after him. Even if you knock me down a couple of times, I'm going to come back stronger than ever, and I believe that's what people want in today's electorate. They don't want
that in the primary that Michael Roberson's people spent nearly $2 million insulting you, insulting your integrity, your honesty.
It was more than that. It was a pure character assassination of incredibly deceitful and lies and stuff. But that's part of politics.
Are you prepared for more of the same from the Democrats? Are they going to take a page from the Roberson playbook? It clearly did not work.
I mean, look at I won early voting by 10%, and I won the election day by 5%. It didn't work enough to make me lose, but it certainly takes an impact. Negative ads, no matter what people say, those things work, and it's so hard to watch TV, and every single ad right now is what a horrible person Cortez is, what a horrible person Heck is, and a horrible person Trump. And whenever Trump does some ads against Hillary, I'm sure we're going to see the same thing. And at some point, you would hope that the public would turn that out, but those things work, and the Democrats will do that. They'll do as best as they can. I don't feel it's going to turn the election. I don't think that it'll make it enough of a difference to put a Harry Reid puppet in office. I don't think they're going to buy these things, and I'm prepared for it. Obviously, we don't like it, but I'm prepared for it.
Danny Tarkanian joining us. Final minute before you go back to being Mr. Mom again. I got to ask you, is there going to be a Trump coattail, you think? Everybody's trying to figure out what this Trump factor is going to be. Is it going to help guys like you, hurt guys like you, especially for those of you that support him? Can you talk a little bit about what you expect in these final 4 months relative to Donald J. Trump?
I don't think anybody knows. I mean that isn't. I certainly don't have an answer. In our, the National Republican Congressional Committee, when I went back there a couple of weeks ago, and they said it's hard to see or determine what's going to happen with the Trump movement. It could be like you just mentioned, a coattails where he's going to just turn out a number of people, incredible amount of people that haven't voted for before and voted Republican ticket. Or I know the Democrats are doing everything they can to make him look like he's horrible, and they'll run him off.
Wow. It's going to be an interesting 4 months as we get to November. Danny, thanks for joining us. Give our best to the kids.